A particular man joined a conference call I was on, and he says, you know, you're talking a different game than everybody else I've listened to. Can I talk to you in private? I said, yeah, email me at a certain address and I'll give you my phone number. And so he called me, and I'm in Seattle. He was in Shasta County, California. And he said, I got this certain problem with the county. I have 42 acres and I got a mobile home that you can't even see from outside my property. I built a drain field for my mobile home. I built an awning without a permit. I didn't get permits for any of these things. And I built an outbuilding, but I'm a real good carpenter and an engineer, and everything's fine. My place is clean, but they brought 10 charges against my wife and 10 charges against me, all misdemeanors, and of the same crimes, 2 different complaints. And I took his case on, and you'll get this in the drive-by litigation course, and you'll get details on where you can purchase my materials. It comes on a flash drive, opens up like a website on your computer, has all the documents in it from the Shasta County case, and I gleaned from the process I followed in that case to defend him, practicing law without a license, for somebody who couldn't get an attorney. And I saw 10 false charges here and 10 false charges against his wife. I said, this was made for me. And the judge was steamrolling him. And in 8 months of litigation, a bunch of back and forths, citizens' criminal complaints, the lead prosecutor on the case, Martha Gandy, was demoted to fish and game instead of junior prosecutor for the county. An assistant that had signed on during the case, signed on with the county as a prosecutor, was fired. The judge retired 10 years early, and 2 members of the county board of supervisors resigned, one of which he'd have been running against in the next term had they not resigned, this defendant. He was putting on his blazer and his tie and going to Chamber of Commerce meetings and shaking hands with people that lived in the city saying, can you get a load of what they do up there in the courthouse? Found a bunch of people that were ready to formulate a groundswell of movement against the court and everything. Anyway, at the end of the case, it came up to where they did this, they did this, they did this, and all this litigation went false charges, so they know all of this, and they're using the mail to do this. That's extortion and racketeering if it's a false charge. He could prove all of them were false. And so one of the last documents filed in the case was a thick racketeering complaint against the county and against the participants from the county in a racketeering scheme, because we found other people that had been falsely prosecuted. That's a pattern of illegal misconduct to obtain property. That's called racketeering. And I looked at that complaint in, it was probably August or early September of '05. I got really jealous, because I'd never been that nasty to anybody on paper as I was in this federal racketeering complaint against the county and the opposing attorneys and the judge. And I got jealous because it had my student's name on it. And so I said, I need one of these. And so I wrote a racketeering and extortion complaint, a few other charges in there, against the IRS and the Secretary of the Treasury and a couple of judges and some prosecutors from the DOJ and the U.S. Attorney General, then Albert Gonzalez, that had my name on it. It was Dave Myrland versus these people for racketeering based on what I can prove in my 1994 treatise. So from 1994, when I began writing legal pleadings, to 2005, all the skill I acquired there, I formulated the criminal complaint of 33 pages with 22 counts, and wrote a 58-page brief in support to prove the accusations in the counts, put some other exhibits together. For example, Publication 17, Tax Guide for Individuals from the IRS. Since 1993, it's the publication they send out to every household with a blue cover. Since 1993, they've been telling you in part 13 or 14 of that publication that your services are your cost, which would mean You don't make a profit when you sell your labor. Why are you imposing an income tax on me? They can't talk about it. They've had all these years to change it, and it still reads like that. So I still use it as an exhibit. Anyway, it went in, let's call it New Year's of '06, when I wrote this complaint, the memorandum, formulated the exhibits, and the Department of Justice had, I think it was September of '05, they had a criminal case against a Seattle man named Raymond Gebauer, who was a great big fish in multi-level marketing, made a bunch of money, didn't pay or didn't file, something like that. And Raymond Gebauer and his attorney contacted me and invited me to sit in on a meeting at the DOJ in Seattle in the umpteenth floor, I don't know where it was. And there was Robert Westinghouse, like a chief prosecutor for the tax division, a big fish prosecutor, and a couple other prosecutors, maybe an IRS special agent. And I was invited, and they allowed me to sit in on the meeting, where I just sat for 2.5 hours and listened to Westinghouse threaten Raymond Gebauer with, "We're going to indict your wife if you don't plead guilty by the end of the week," okay, and all the other run up to that. And through that, I came to understand what they have to do to the grand jury to get a tax indictment, and what I had that negated it. And so I wrote a 12-page sworn cover letter and a couple of exhibits that I put on top of my criminal complaint and racketeering with exhibits, racketeering brief with exhibits. Cover letter had a couple of exhibits that are a riot, and sent those to 80 members of Congress, 180 pages to 80 members of Congress. Cost me almost $6,000. Now, the exhibits, this is another indication of your relationship with government is not what you think it is. The exhibits to the cover letter were 2 letters that the IRS had sent me the previous summer. This is like September that I'm formulating this complaint. In like maybe late April and early June of '05, they sent me a letter, identical letters. Hey, for activities after October 4th of 2004, you owe us for promoting abusive tax shelters. Under that statute, we can penalize you either $1,000 or 20% of what we think you would have made off of your endeavors to promote abusive tax shelters. Amount of the penalty, 1 penny. Credit to your account, 1 penny. Amount you owe, 0. Please don't send payment. If you want to challenge this penalty, you can take us to U.S. District Court and challenge the penalty. First off, the taunting. We can penalize you $1,000. Well, they didn't do that. Or we can penalize you 20%, 1/5 of what we think you would have made off of your endeavors. You think I would have made a nickel because you penalized me a penny. Oh, thanks, servant breath. I got your letters right here, pal. So anyway, you gotta spare me. You got somebody with so much time on their hands that they're gonna reach out and penalize somebody a penny twice and pay it for them twice and say, don't send me a payment. I'm smarter than that. You don't spike the ball. No end zone dance. And so I included them in my congressional criminal complaint to Congress that went in New Year's of '06. Number 1, they want to go to a grand jury later because they took away my inspiration to pay. I'm penalized 0. They wanted to go to a grand jury and say in general, you know, we penalized him twice and he didn't even complain. So I didn't want to be somebody that failed to complain. Number 2, it's a conspiracy against my rights. They're conspiring against my liberty. They want to indict me when they know their allegations are worthless. I teach just law. And number 3 was extortion. They're telling me I have to go to U.S. District Court. That's a $350 filing fee right in the Fed's pocket. So I made 3 criminal allegations in my criminal complaint to 80 members of Congress and didn't hear from them again about that. So I trumped them. I got in front of them, I knew what they were trying to do, and I addressed it with something to this day they can't talk about. And when people get in line with this criminal complaint, they're able many times to shut down IRS criminal investigations because the law protects you.